Hello, everybody. I'm CJ Miller, and I'm in my kitchen in Shreveport, Louisiana, across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana, in Northwest Louisiana. Come check us out. So, today I'm doing a fried chicken breast, and I'm also going to do some catfish along the side because I've made some extra batter. And I'm frying the chicken first. Uh, Normally, if I'm in a professional setting or something like that, I would not worry. Uh, I would not use the same batter that I've had this chicken. I would not do this for the catfish, but I'm at home and I know that I'm going to heat it and cook the fish completely done, and the grease is going to be hot enough. And there's not going to be any cross contamination because I just put this in. This chicken does not sit in this batter, say more than like 10 minutes before frying. And then there's one piece of chicken that's going to be in here while I'm finishing frying. And it goes for about 13, 14 minutes in a skillet of 35 degrees. So I'm not too worried about cross contamination in my kitchen when it's just me. If I were doing this for a company, or if I were in a professional kitchen, I would probably split the batter and use some of the batter for the fish separately than from the chicken. But, whatever, I'm an amateur. At least I am tonight. Okay, so, and I'm going to take you over here and show you how this is looking. But first, let me tell you, I took about two, yeah, I'm going to say about roughly 2 cups of all purpose flour. Uh, and then I added copious amounts to taste of ground chili pepper, powdered chili peppers. You can see that in there. It's really spicy. Uh, and that's what I want. And then 4 whole eggs for the binding. And I whisked it, let it get good. It's kind of a thin pancakey batter. And then I let it rest for about 10 minutes. And then I put it in the really, really hot grease, and it's just about time to take it out. I'm going to take you over and show you what it's looking like. So that's really good, and you can see that this is when it starts to. I flipped it once. You want to flip it a couple of times. When it starts to pull out like that, the juices, and they start to kind of get this. Then you want that action to have stopped, definitely, before you take it out. This looks gross. I'm going to flip it. Hang on. Yeah, you don't want the juices from the chicken mixing with the batter and then coming up and pooling up. And so you'll flip it every once in a while until that stops. By the time that stops completely, the chicken's probably done. These are boneless chicken breasts that I'm working with right now. So it's probably going to go for, like I said, about 14 minutes total. I'm just eyeballing it, kind of going with the feel. But you see, even as I flipped it, it's already like the juice is already coming back up through the batter in some places. We don't want that. You may lose batter here and there in a pan fry situation that we're doing. Uh, if you deep fry it and you have a spoon that you can get underneath it and stuff, you'll probably lose less of your batter. Uh, what's really going to be great about this is the flavor. Oh, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do is pause the video, and I will come back and show you what this is like with the fish and the chicken. Hey, so this chicken's looking really great in a very rustic way, but that's cool. This is very home style. And what I've done is I have added some more uh, unbleached flour and a little bit of tap water to what was in the bowl after I breaded all the chicken. Uh, and I used the batter that was already here and put the fish in. So now it's ready to go into the hot oil, about 350 degrees. These will only take about 7 to 8 minutes, maybe about 4 minutes on each side if you want to go to 8 minutes. But you really don't need that much for a good pan-fried chicken because it's closer to the bottom of the skillet. Uh, and what's to be expected. This style of frying in a shallower pan, especially with fish in a French style cooking, is a panade fried. Uh, panade, meaning pan fried. Panade is the French term. So let's see. Let's see how we can get this to turn out. So, what I have done here is basically have taken the same batter that I used for the chicken, added a little bit more flour, basically just to soften up the spice. I want a spicier flavored chicken, and I want a little bit lighter of a flavor in this fish. And this is catfish fillets, and it's a good. I should say, kind of a medium, a little bit, almost kind of a darkish crispy on this fish batter, this English style fish. This isn't a dry batter. This is a wet batter, but I used eggs and it really congealed very well, and that's what we want. And we get this, which is really good. Now you could do this with cod. I had catfish on hand. Traditionally, it's with cod or pollock or something like that. Any sort of a wild, clean white fish. And anyway, you do a pretty decent fish and chips. I'm not doing the chips because the breading on here is fried enough. So by the time I have one of these, and then I think I'll take the smallest piece of chicken just to taste it in a little bit. So I have like a kind of a surf and turf. I've done this several times. There's nothing new in this. It's just, the thing is I do some cooking every couple of days, and then I rotate out my meals, that I keep these in my refrigerator, and then I rotate out my meals, and always keeping some sort of food like this in the refrigerator ready to pop into the microwave over a couple of days. And what happens is I don't get tempted to eat quick snacks. My cupboard is not filled with Twinkies and cupcakes, and it's not filled with bags of carbs. I have, as a matter of fact, right now, if I wanted a quick snack that's carb loaded, the only thing I have is I have these, Pringle style potato chips, basically, super stackers or whatever. But I got that brand instead of Pringles because it's a little bit cheaper, and I do like to watch my budget. It's every bit as good as the Pringles, by the way. It's comparable. With some baked Lays are another one that's comparable. But anyway, and the only reason I have that is because every 4 or 5 days, if I haven't had carbs by the 5th day, I need to have a carb on that 5th day. But I try to have a little carb every 3 days. Today, I've only had 35 grams of carbs. I've kept an eye on my carb intake, and by the time I eat this, it will be midnight and my carb count starts over. If I wanted to, I could have 12 of these chips, and I get about 14 grams of carbs. And they're very tasty. Surprisingly, when you're not used to eating just a bowl of chips for a meal, that's what some people do. Some people really will do that, where they open up a bag of Fritos, and not a snack pack, but like an entire bag of something. Or some people will eat like a whole row of Oreos out of the cookie bag or something like that, instead of the 1 or 2 that they should. So what happens is, you go way over your carb. Well, I don't keep snacks like that around, and the ones that I do, like I said, I keep a very close eye on. I watch it as closely as I watch my bank account, and I don't overdraw on my bank account, and very seldom do I ever go over 50 grams of carbs in a day, and I really try to stay under that. Today even was more carbs than I was happy with. Um, as a matter of fact, uh, yeah, this is the breading on this. Uh, is maybe per piece of meat is probably going to be approximate on average, depending on the size and the thickness of it or whatever, will probably be, uh, I don't know, it's less carbs than what's in a slice of bread, I can tell you that. Had to pause this video so I could come back and finish my thought. So each one of these individual pieces is probably less than a slice of bread, your typical slice of bread. Uh, but say just round it up to what your carbs would be per slice of bread. So, uh, yeah. Um, and this is I don't know, an all-purpose, non-self-rising flour that I use. So, yeah. The irony is there are no carbs in, say, a cornstarch, but a cornstarch will not give this type of batter. So I need to use a little bit of, of flour instead of cornstarch. But I don't know. That what accounts, actually the reason why there's less carbs in here than your average slice of bread per slice is because there's no sugar at all here. So with bread, you actually add a fair amount of sugar. With the yeast, you still can stay within your, if you're doing like 50 grams and under on a keto diet, you can still do that with a slice of bread. It's better to go like whole grain bread if you're going to do that, because at least you get some fiber in those carbs, which does not count because fiber does not absorb into the body. It doesn't. It doesn't add like nutrition. It helps nutrition process, if you know what I mean. So, what are we looking at here is, or the fiber part, anything that's fiber is what I mean, and like grains, you have nutrients and then you have fiber, which is like lettuce, roughage, that kind of stuff. So anyway, what we have going on is there's no sugar here. Because there's no sugar, this is a lot less, it's going to be a lot less of a deduction from my daily account, my carb count, because there's no sugar here. So a better choice. A better choice still would have been to bake it, but you know what? I'm also like not wanting to heat up my apartment. So I'm watching a budget with my AC, and it's hot outside and stuff too. So I really don't want to heat the apartment up. So I figure one pot that I'm working with on the stove would probably be a little bit better in heat. There's all sorts of ways that I can trick myself. This is what I have to be careful of too. When I'm eating and when I'm having my meals throughout the day, smaller amounts, and I have to remember and I have to not let myself rationalize, as you can hear, but I can clearly know how to rationalize myself and say, gee, I can eat this candy bar today. I can have this ice cream cone today. I can have this today because I'm just going to work it off. And then when it's time to work it off, I don't work it off. So I have to be careful about that, taking that kind of accountability, holding oneself to accountability with the food and with the exercise regimen, because nobody's going to stand over you and make you do this. So it's really good to have a sense of personal accountability when there are some dietary changes that one wants to make, and there are some any sort of changes, any sort of lifestyle changes, any sort of uh, changes that you want to make with your own behavior, anything. This can be just a metaphor for any sort of change. The fact of the matter is, if there's any sort of change that is going to happen of the body, mind, or the spirit, the soul, uh, so to speak, and the soul and the spirit are two separate things, by the way. But a lot of times when we talk about them, we use them interchangeably because uh, it is about personal accountability. What happens with that? Yeah, we have to make those changes. Nobody on the outside of us can do that for us, and that includes having a healthier diet, a healthier exercise regimen, a healthier whatever. And yeah, if we're not willing to make those changes, and other people will maybe advise that we should, then they start sounding like the other person, start sounding like a broken record. So, it's really going to be up to us what we can do about being a little bit healthy, and we're all imperfect in those areas, uh, you know, and that's okay too because we try. And like I said, this is just in my diet, but not just in my diet, but in other areas of my life. I have imperfections, uh, and in the way that I go about things, and it's really okay to make those mistakes as long as I'm willing to own them and take the consequences for them, and then take accountability for the changes that need to be made and the corrections and the restitutions that need to be made in those areas. But then I've gone off on something else altogether. Watching my diet and being a little bit more physically active, even a little bit more than I was yesterday. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more each day, a little bit better, a little bit of increase. And what happens there is that I am become able to take accountability for my own person, And when I first started this, a few years ago, just really I wanted to get healthier with everything that was going on. Hang on one second. So I needed to flip that last piece of chicken. So I will be honest, this batter is it's a little bit more suited to the fish than it is the chicken, but I didn't feel like doing two different batters and stuff. So, yeah. But what I was talking about was, taking personal accountability uh, and restitutions and everything uh, in those areas that I want to improve, and no one's holding me to that type of accountability except for myself. And in the ways of diet and activity and a little bit daily, a little bit more of an increase, a little bit each day, just a little bit more each day. What happens is, that I realize that I am making a restitution to myself for not always taking care of my health, and not always eating a little bit better, not always exercising, and kind of letting things go as I did in my 30s. But, I mean, gratefully I started in time. I'll tell you what happened and where I got distracted. Here's right where we were. When I started on this, when they first told me that I was diabetic and that my A1C was like 7.8, I had like a depression and a flip out. And then what happened was it took a couple of days. I think I was depressed for that first day. The next day, I decided to say goodbye to food, and the way I did that was I went out and I took myself on a date and I ate whatever I wanted to eat. I went to Wendy's, had the Frosty, I ate all the carbs that I wanted to, this and that. Big, huge Baconator, bacon fries and stuff like that. Until the next couple of days, whatever kind of meal I wanted. And then I set about researching how to, each person when they have dietary needs, there are several different options that people can go in order to try to eat healthier. And I chose one that fits my personal taste, which I am not a vegetable person. If you're a vegetable person, then what you want to do is you want to go to vegetables, vegetable trays, and then low fat and low sugar dips, and as many raw, crunchy vegetables as you can get. If that's your taste, and then you do that, and you actually, if you make that decision, you can pretty much eat all damn day long and stuff your face all day long with vegetables. At the less or the fewer condiments you put on those vegetables, the more of them you can eat. You know, depending upon, now you want vegetables that are truly nutritional vegetables and not carbs hidden within vegetables. You know, uh, I was hearing people talk about this today, and they were just joking about, tomato. A tomato is a fruit, and it really is. But nutritionally, it's kind of it's a vegetable, But back and forth, it's like, okay, it's a vegetable fruit. It's kind of like, they I don't know. Nutritionally, we think of it as a vegetable, but agriculturally, it's a fruit. And that's true. That's true. Uh, that's just one example. Uh, I'll show you something else. Now, something like this you might think is good for you, right? But let's flip this over. Per 1 cup, and there's probably, I want to say, about 2 cups in here. So per 1 cup, per container, I should say, there's 43 grams of carbs. 1 cup of this is half of your carbs within a day. So remember something like that. Read your label, because you will think this is a soup, and maybe you make it and you make half of it, and it's, by the way, it's not this. It's a soup that eats like a meal, but it don't eat this much like a damn meal. There's a lot of broth in here. So I've had it. So when you open up a can like this and you say, I'm gonna have this half a cup for my lunch, maybe I'm gonna have half a cup for my dinner. Okay, well, that is 43 grams. Now, of that, you get to deduct 2 grams, meaning, I don't know, the rest of it, dietary fiber, 2 grams, meaning that the rest of it counts. Some of it comes from added sugars. There's 6 grams of it that go to sugar, and the rest of it will be carbs. So yeah, carbs and carbs are starches, and starches convert to sugar, and they convert back and forth. Sugar converts to starch, and then to sugar and whatever. So in the body. So you learn all about it. Nutritionally, I would advise it. It's weird how that happens, but they're basically interchangeable, and the only thing you deduct is these fibrous kind of anything that is not a net carb. That means fibers, and then certain types of alcoholic sugars that are attached to alcohol, does not stay in the body to provide nutrient to the body. So alcoholic sugars, some minor things, but really read the labels, because you will think, hey, this is just, I can have this throughout the day. Well, you can still stay under 50 grams unless you fuck around and have a grilled cheese sandwich. Then you're over your 50 carbs. So you might want to be, that's what I'm saying. It's tricky, but it's good responsibility in food to read the labels. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. Listen, this stuff is awesome. It's about 11:30. I'm going to plate this up. Hang on one second. So here we are, and we're looking at this plate that I have some basil, some dried herbs for garnish, and blue cheese. And I will tell you something. I kid you not. Blue cheese is a very powerful powerhouse flavor. Takes very little to add a balance to anything. Braised, broiled, roasted, uh, seared, fried. I love it. I love it. And I'll tell you a secret. Zero carbs. Zero carbs in a blue cheese. Make friends with the good blue cheese. Love it. Uh, in the absence of any other health concerns. You do want to, like if you were doing like a heart healthy diet, you'll want to reduce the amount of frying in oil. I do a little bit too much of that. I'm going to work on that to avoid, you know, complications with the heart, you know, because sometimes those kind of things, it really is, it's not a matter of your body size, it's a matter of how much oils you consume. But with fish, you can eat two or three bits of fish, which is larger here. You can do that, and if you're gonna fry in oils versus solids like a lard or something like that. You know, it's a healthier way to go. But you really want to with fish, you want to do like some salmon and stuff like that a couple of times a week or whatever, because those types of fats are really healthy for the body versus some other types of fats that are not healthy. So it's, you know, it's like there are healthy carbs and then there are carbs that are not healthy. And carbs are a protein. So it's to say, yeah, I'm on a higher protein diet because I'm eating meat. Well, you know, carbs are also a protein. So you have to go beyond a category sometimes and really look at what's going on. And I learned to do that when I started looking at net carbs versus total carbs, because some of the total carbs you can actually deduct, and that, you know, gives you a little bit of leeway. But anyway, yeah, let's get a taste of this. Hang on, we'll start with the fish first because I do not need to cut into the fish. And yes, I am gonna. Yes, I am gonna. I love a good this scattered basil that I put on the plate. Basil has such a wonderful flavor. A really really good. Yeah, it's wonderful. Not only is it great for look good for garnish, but it just adds a good aromatic quality to any food. Okay, so there we go. Looks terrible once I butcher it because I'm not really doing a good job of presenting it. But, boy, is that flaky and tasty and very done and very delicious. And it's kind of like after a while, you get to a point that you get like an internal clock when you're used to frying food. When you're a good fry cook, and I was. I was another type of cook. I was mini. So that gets a little spicy. Then you take a little bit of the blue cheese, which has got a good creamy finish, and it perfectly balances with a little bit of salt in there also. And you can find other types of cheeses too, some ricotta, anything like that. Any sort of cream, but really a good cheese is really good to have on this. But it will, if you get a little spice, it'll neutralize that spice. But look how red this fish is. That is pure pepper and deliciousness. I love it. Okay. That's great. I knew that it would be. I'm going to put you on pause and get a good cut of the chicken here. So I want to show this white meat chicken breast, and I could have made it flatter if you've cut and flat it and everything like that. But basically, there should be no pink in here. And because I've let this rest, the juices have pulled back into the meat. If I had cut this as soon as I pulled it out, then the juices would have been pouring all out of it. But because I maintained, then actually there's a good juiciness inside of this chicken breast, which is good. So let me cut it. It's very flavorful. Generally, I prefer dark meat, but I had the chicken breast, And so I did it, and it's very good. Um, so something like this, you can slice into rounds if you wanted to, and then lay it over a salad. I'm not eating a salad, but you could. I'm having this. And I will probably eat about half of this and half of this, maybe, yeah, give or take. It depends upon. But when I get to a point, because I'm here and I live by myself, when I get to a point that I feel like, you know what, I'm kind of getting full or whatever, if there's a little bit left on the plate, I don't mind taking those leftovers and putting it in a container and saving it and eating later. It is much better to eat slow and pace yourself throughout the day and eat smaller amounts than to try to cram your daily nutrition into, say, uh, 2 to 3 meals, So anyway, I've gone on for over 30 minutes. I hope I got all this on one video. Sometimes it'll break and start a new video without me knowing it. But anyway, bon appetit, love and light, peace, good night. Please forgive my soapboxing.